I was watching the ABC World News on Sunday, and they ran this story talking about how these three Walmart workers were going to be charged with manslaughter in their attempts to stop this shoplifter. And in this attempt to stop this shoplifter, these three Walmart employees wound up using excessive force on the individual. And this 60 something individual who was alleged to be shoplifting at the end of the confrontation not only wound up dead, but they also wound up with 15 broken ribs. So that shows us the severity of the injuries this person received as a result of these employees using excessive force. And when I heard this story, it took me back to 2008 when I was working at the City College of New York. And I remember that time, it was about September, and the head of the department comes into the library. He doesn't ever talk to me or ever introduce himself to me, except for the day when he let me go. But he talks to this pro-black female I was working with, and allegedly tells her to talk to me about asking these students when the alarm goes off to, one, look into their bags, and two, to ask them if they have any books. And that's really high risk and dangerous behavior, especially when you think about it, because one, as an employee my job was just to stand at the circulation desk and check people in and out, my job was not security. So once they go past a certain line, I'm not trained to, engage these people regarding that situation. When you're dealing with people who, in that type of situation, you need a trained security specialist, because a trained security specialist, one, is wearing a uniform that shows his authority or her authority. Two, your trained security specialist has training in how to engage and detain individuals. And three, you really don't want to engage any sort of individual in a confrontation if you do not have the licenses, training, or certification. Unless it is a life and death situation, as an employee, you don't want to put yourself at risk, and you don't want to put your health and safety at risk, and you don't want to put the health and safety of others at risk. And whenever employers ask you to do this type of things like security, that's really a dangerous thing. And a lot of people don't think about it that way. When I thought about those Walmart employees, it pretty much proved my point, regarding these type of situations. And my opinions regarding it. It said, look, if you go out here and these managers will sit there and tell you, oh, go and engage this person in case something happens. And then when it goes sour and you're being charged with manslaughter or some sort of assault, the same employer will pretty much will backpedal and say, I didn't tell them to do that, because what they'll do is they'll go back to their written policy and say that this is the written policy, which is employees are not to engage shoplifters. And that's the written policy. However, the oral policy of management will be, oh, we really need somebody to detain these shoplifters. We need to stop these shoplifters. And if you follow the oral policy that a manager gives you and you don't look at the written, you're going to wind up in a jam, because whenever something bad happens, what they're going to do is they're going to go back to that written policy, and they're going to use those written rules to pretty much abandon you as an employee. They're going to say, he violated the written policies of the company, and because this individual did this, this is a reason for your termination. And then you're out here and you're liable, because whenever somebody is injured or harmed, not only is the company liable for those injuries, but you're also liable as well, and you can be named in a lawsuit. And this is really, a dangerous and troubling situation for you to be in. And the whole thing is that you never engage a shoplifter or any sort of individual if you're working a sales or a customer service job at all. If that person is taking something, you pretty much let them go. You dial 911 or you contact the security office and let them deal with them. You do never engage them. You never confront them. I mean, you're not paid to do that. And and I look at the low wages that companies like Walmart pay, and it's like maybe $9, $10, $11 an hour. And again, that is not worth you putting your health at risk, your safety at risk, and the health and safety of other people at risk. Because whenever you try to confront someone like a shoplifter or a library thief, chances are this individual may or may not be armed with a weapon such as a knife or a loaded gun. And not only could they harm you, but if these shots go the wrong way or if this guy's engaging people, it can really escalate a simple shoplifting case into homicide. And you really don't want to engage these people because, again, you're not trained to handle this. You're not a licensed security guard. You're not a licensed security specialist. So you do not even know what to look for. I mean, just because the alarm goes off doesn't mean that you go into action. When you're even a security specialist isn't going to run and go into action. What they're going to do is they know how to what questions to ask. They know how to confront someone in a way that de-escalates the situation and makes it safe for everyone. Because the whole point of dealing with shoplifters or people who are stealing or causing losses in a business is that you want to contain the individual, and then you also want to make sure that everyone is safe in this situation. Moreover, you want to make sure that there is a crime being committed so that if this person is committing this crime, you have ample evidence to go after this person in court. And this is something that a lot of people are there because they're caught up in their emotions. They'll jump out and engage this guy, not understanding that the law clearly states that, yeah, that person can walk all the way up to the end of the door. They can even walk to the door. And if they turn around, it's not a shoplifting case. It's only a shoplifting case if that person leaves the building. And that was the big issue I had when I was working at the library. If the alarm goes off, the person has not left the building. So we cannot confront that individual until they literally leave the building. Then it becomes a security issue. And it also becomes, and also a big problem was where the library I was working at, they didn't even have a security guard. So you're gonna try to have a person who you say is a sales or a customer service person trying to do a job of a security guard. And that's just not smart because, again, you're going to wind up liable in a lawsuit if one of these individuals, the employee, gets hurt or one of the students gets hurt. And that's just not smart. And I look at that case when I was watching it on ABC News, and it shows me, a lot of managers out here, they're not really looking at things from a broad and objective perspective as a business. You don't have your salespeople going out and trying to play hero, because when they try to play hero, they're going to cost you a couple $1,000,000 in a lawsuit in punitive damages and other damages and court costs and legal fees. And it's just cheaper, for that individual to let that individual go and then let law enforcement deal with them or let security specialists deal with them, because they can contain the situation far better than some salesperson or some, stock person who's working for $9, maybe $10 an hour. And that again, the cost of going to court and all that goes far beyond any wages you would get from that low-level job. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.